Imagine standing on the African savanna 2 million years ago as an early human ancestor lifts their eyes to the night sky. Darkness does not bring a single guiding orb, but two. One moon hangs large and familiar, while another, smaller, sharper, moving on a different rhythm, slides across the stars. The night is brighter, the shadows deeper, and the sky itself feels alive with motion. This is not just a beautiful difference. In a world with two moons, the entire story of human evolution would unfold along a radically altered path. Gravity would be the first invisible force shaping this alternate history. With two moons tugging on Earth, gravity would never settle into the stable rhythm we know today. Instead, it would fluctuate subtly but constantly. Some nights, the combined pull of both moons would slightly lighten the body, making long-distance walking easier and leaps feel longer. Other nights, when their poles opposed each other, gravity would feel marginally heavier. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this instability would favor bodies that could adapt quickly: stronger, stabilizing muscles, denser bones in the legs and spine, and an even more efficient sense of balance. Human ancestors might develop broader pelvises and thicker joints earlier, not just to walk upright, but to remain steady in a world where the ground itself seemed to breathe under changing gravitational stress. The oceans would tell an even more dramatic story. Two moons mean complex tides, overlapping tidal systems that collide, amplify, or cancel each other. Instead of two predictable high tides a day, coastlines would experience chaotic surges. At times, massive super tides would flood far inland, creating temporary seas that lasted days or weeks. At other times, the ocean would retreat farther than ever, exposing vast stretches of seabed rich with shellfish and stranded marine life. Early humans living near these coasts would be forced to become opportunistic masters of timing. Survival would depend on reading the moons, memorizing their cycles, and understanding when the sea would give and when it would take. This constant pressure could accelerate cognitive evolution, rewarding foresight, pattern recognition, and long-term memory. These tidal extremes would reshape Earth's climate from the ground up. Powerful tides churn oceans more aggressively, redistributing heat across the planet. Warm water would be pushed toward higher latitudes more often, softening ice ages or making them shorter but more violent. Glacial periods might arrive suddenly and retreat just as fast, creating environmental whiplash. Forests would expand and collapse rapidly, savannas would appear where jungles once stood, and deserts would bloom with life before drying again. Human evolution thrives on instability, and this world would provide it in abundance. Adaptability would become the single most important survival trait, favoring flexible diets, mobile lifestyles, and social cooperation over specialization. Day and night themselves would feel different. Two moons would reflect far more light onto Earth, turning many nights into long silver twilights. True darkness would be rare. Predators that rely on stealth would struggle, while visually oriented hunters would thrive. Early humans, already developing forward-facing eyes and depth perception, would gain a significant advantage. Night activity would increase dramatically. Fire might be discovered earlier, not just as a tool for warmth, but as a way to reclaim contrast and control in an overly illuminated world. The boundary between day and night culture would blur, extending waking hours and encouraging longer periods of social interaction, storytelling, and shared learning. Sleep patterns would evolve under this double moon sky. Melatonin cycles, deeply tied to light and darkness, would be disrupted. Humans might develop segmented sleep naturally, resting in shorter cycles rather than one long stretch. This could lead to more frequent nighttime awakenings, moments of quiet reflection beneath the moons. These hours could become sacred, associated with thought, ritual, and observation of the heavens. Over time, the human brain might adapt to function optimally with less continuous sleep, increasing resilience and alertness. The sky would become humanity's first great teacher. With two moons moving at different speeds and angles, eclipses would be common and spectacular. One moon could partially cover the other, creating shifting rings of light and shadow. Occasionally, both moons might align with the sun, plunging entire regions into eerie daytime darkness. These celestial events would be impossible to ignore. Long before writing, humans would track lunar movements with stone markers, memory, and myth. Astronomy would not begin as a science, but as a survival skill. Knowing the moons would mean knowing the tides, the migrations of animals, and the arrival of floods. Mythology in this world would be profoundly shaped by duality. One moon might be seen as a guardian, steady and nurturing, associated with fertility, water, and life. The other could be viewed as a trickster or harbinger, its erratic path blamed for storms, madness, or sudden disasters. Stories would revolve around their eternal dance: conflict, balance, betrayal, and reunion. These myths would reinforce early human understanding of cause and effect, teaching that the world is shaped by interacting forces rather than a single will. This mindset could influence human psychology itself, making people more comfortable with complexity, contradiction, and uncertainty. Human biology would not escape unaltered. Fluctuating gravity and tides could subtly influence development in the womb. Stronger vestibular systems would evolve to cope with constant changes in balance and motion. Children might develop exceptional spatial awareness from a young age, instinctively sensing shifts in their environment. Over generations, this could produce humans with heightened coordination, faster reflexes, and an almost intuitive understanding of physical dynamics. Our ancestors might become natural climbers and swimmers, adapting to landscapes frequently reshaped by water and erosion. Migration patterns would change dramatically. Coastal regions, though dangerous, would offer immense resources during extreme low tides. Inland, rivers swelling by complex tidal forces would carve new paths, creating fertile floodplains that appear and disappear over centuries. Human groups would learn to move with these rhythms, becoming semi-nomadic on a grand scale. This constant movement would encourage cultural exchange, preventing long periods of isolation. Languages, tools, and ideas would spread faster, weaving humanity into a more interconnected species much earlier in its history. Technological development might accelerate in unexpected ways. The need to predict lunar interactions would push early humans toward abstract thinking and measurement. Simple counting systems could emerge from tracking moon cycles. Carved bones, stones, or cave markings might record complex lunar calendars tens of thousands of years earlier than in our timeline. Navigation would benefit also. With 2 moons as reference points, early travelers could orient themselves at night with remarkable accuracy, enabling longer journeys and bolder exploration. Even emotions and social structures could be shaped by this sky. Brighter nights would make gatherings safer and more frequent. Music, dance, and communal rituals might flourish under moonlight, strengthening social bonds. The presence of 2 moons could symbolize partnership and cooperation, reinforcing the idea that survival depends on balance between forces: individual and group, strength and flexibility, caution and curiosity. Leadership might be associated not with dominance, but with the ability to interpret signs and guide others through uncertainty. When modern humans finally look back at their origins in this double moon world, the 2 moons would not just be objects in the sky, they would be woven into language, identity, and philosophy. Concepts like balance, duality, and cycles would dominate human thought. Science, when it emerges, would naturally focus on systems rather than isolated phenomena. Humanity might reach an understanding of complex interactions between climate, biology, and society earlier than we have in our own timeline. In the end, a second moon would not simply make the night more beautiful. It would reshape gravity, sculpt oceans, rewrite climate, and quietly mold the human body and mind. Our ancestors would grow up under a sky that never let them forget change, motion, and interconnection. And perhaps in such a world, humanity would emerge not just as survivors of Earth, but as true students of it, forever shaped by the eternal dance of 2 moons above.